see. Let's make sure it's on. Okay. Yes. Okay, welcome everybody. This is LIFEBEAT, Conversations with Purposeful Women. This is our third episode. Thank you so much for joining us. I am your host, Lizzie Wann, and we are broadcasting live on Puna Press Live, the channel on Twitch. I am on the author roster of Puna Press with my poetry collection. It's called The Hospice Bubble and Other Devastating Affirmations. Before we get too much further, I want to make a personal statement. Black Lives Matter. Science is real. Please wear a mask. Wash your hands. Social distance. Trans, women's, and LGBTQ rights are human rights. And where I sit right now, I am on Keech or Tongva land. All right, and now I will read a poem and then I will introduce the guests. The poem today is from the book, Hospice Bubble, and it's called The Window, and it's after a painting of the same name by Marc Chagall. Storms move like wars and love affairs, cloudy with bursts of blue sky and reason. They roll over land and sea, leave their mark, hearts and souls imprinted for a moment or a lifetime. Sometimes they begin without warning, or maybe you've seen them approaching, uncertain of their intentions or whether you will come through them without injury. Perhaps you know of no way to protect yourself, so you face them bravely. But if you can, seek occasional shelter, a place to go where you can ride them out. Those who study them will be best prepared when they are repeated. Okay, thank you. And Sharon, well done with your mask. Appreciate the demonstration. All right, so now I will introduce my guests. Here we go. We have Dr. Sharon Elise. Wave so they know who you are. There you go. Professor of Sociology and former department chair at Cal State San Marcos, earned her PhD from the University of Oregon. She is also an award-winning poet. Her work, professional and poetical, focuses on intersectionality, Black feminism, sociopoetics, and more. Friends, her CV is 19 pages long, okay? She is based in Encinitas, California. Next, we have Mindy Stallings. She is an entrepreneur. She is a certified coach who started her own business coaching and consulting firm. She is also the president of the board of directors for Voices of Our City Choir in San Diego, who you may have recently seen on America's Got Talent. Made it to the semifinals, y'all. She is based in San Diego. You can learn more about her business at mindystallings.com. And then we have Miki Vale. Miki is an award-winning MC and playwright. Her vision is to move minds, bodies, and souls. She is also an artivist and educator who explores the impact of hip-hop culture on race, class, and gender. She is based in San Diego. You can find more about her at mikivale.com. Mikivale. All right. So I'm going to start off with a lightning round of questions. So you'll all get a chance to answer, and then we'll go into one-on-one questions, okay? So whoever wants to start can start. I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite thing about where you live?
I'll start.
Okay.
My favorite thing about where I live is the culture. It's beautiful. I live in, should I say this on Twitch? I live in an area of San Diego that is on the cusp of a few different neighborhoods, and there's just so much color and diversity, and even in my building, there's the Muslim family downstairs, their businesses downstairs, and then the Korean nail shop is also downstairs, and then I'm here, and yeah, it's just a lovely mix of people, and you walk down the street, and it just feels like community, and everybody says hi, and I love it here.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mhm.
Mindy, Sharon, who wants to go next?
I can go. Mine is such a typical Southern California answer, but it's the ocean. I get up. I've created this new routine where I go every morning and I walk beside the ocean, and I can't believe I grew up in a small town in Texas, super landlocked, and I still can't believe that I've been out here for, I don't know, 20 years or something like that, and it still catches my breath, and I'm like, that's the Pacific Ocean. This is so incredible. So that's my favorite part.
Love it. How about you, Sharon?
I am also in a coastal community, and I was a Navy child, and so I'm not comfortable if I'm far from the ocean. It feels like a window out to the world. And I will say that as a Black person, I am an interloper into my community, but I can remember when I was in college at UCSD, I told my mom, we are not conceding the beaches to the white folks. We are going to infiltrate. And we have, and we did, and we do. But I will say, one of the things people may not realize is despite outward appearances, there's a lot of really great people here. And when you walk through the neighborhoods now, you see signs that Black Lives Matter, that you cannot grab anybody there, that all human rights must be respected. And so there's a growing, change in this community that I really welcome.
Great. Thank you. Okay, so my next question is, what would your superpower be?
Hmm.
Why don't we start with Mindy?
Ah, um, I think that this is really weird. I think that my superpower would be to help more people without being exhausted. To be able to have the energy to do more, because at some point you get to a place where you're like, okay, that's my cap. And part of what I do is I help people create things that change the world. And I always want to do more. So I think my superpower would be to have more energy to do more of that.
Very selfless of you. Sharon, how about you?
Well, I am a child of a family where there are some people who are healers, and I would love to have some of the powers that they have, planetary powers to preserve the earth, beyond body powers to soar through
Mm,
every space and see everything. I would love to be able to do those things, to astral project, and then of course the power to heal, because there are so many people hurting now. And I think I've always loved that concept of laying on of hands and just healing through touch. I think that would be beautiful.
awesome. Miki.
Mine is very similar to Sharon's. I was thinking I would like my superpower to be to give children, make children feel loved, no matter what type
Mm,
of environment they grow up in, to make them feel love, and there's a constant feeling of love and encouragement, and give them just a constant boost of confidence, and know that they're valuable at all times, no matter what.
it's awesome. Mine is to fly. I'm very simple.
That's cool too, Lizzie.
Yeah,
I would like.
mine was in there too.
All right. And last question for the lightning round here is, what is your favorite smell and why? Start with Sharon this time.
Oh my gosh, I'm caught between two smells because I confess that I douse my coffee every morning with cinnamon. That's my sweetener.
Oh,
And it just makes me feel good. But I also love, love, love the smell of lavender. And you can ask my work friends. I have been known to carry lavender and make everybody sniff it to calm their asses down before we start a meeting. It's just like, come on, let's just calm
works. How about you, Mickey?
I love jasmine. I love the smell of jasmine coming in a window on a warm spring day. That's
Yes, I just planted some a couple months ago, and it's still growing. It hasn't flowered yet, but man, when it flowers, it's going to be awesome.
yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Mindy?
Mine is a toss up between coffee and fresh cut grass. Like summer, like just spring. That I mean, I guess that's not very environmental to be like growing your grass and cutting it all the time and stuff. But it's like a familiar. It smells good, you know.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
I could go
Awesome.
on and on with this, Lizzie, because I also love the
yeah.
smell of garlic cooking in
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
God. It makes me hungry immediately.
Yeah. And there's always the smell of rain, when it
Oh,
hits the
yeah.
asphalt. That has a name. It's petrichor is the name of that smell.
There's
Nice.
Really?
multiple smells of rain. I lived in Oregon for many
Petrichor.
years, and I can tell you there's a lot of different smells of rain.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Awesome.
Petrichor.
Yeah.
I had
Okay.
not heard that word before,
Yeah, I
but
gotta
we'll
write that down.
the wordsmith to teach us.
All right. So I'm going to start with Sharon on the individual questions. Um, so Sharon, you recently campaigned for Governor Newsom to sign AB 1460. Can you tell us more about that bill and what it means now that he has signed it?
Well, it's still perpetual struggle, and I
Mm.
think, many of us are accustomed to that. We live our lives just always doing the work. This was a 50-year struggle to really get our particular system, the California State University system, to recognize the value of ethnic studies and its critical need. So many of our students are people of color, working class people of color. They need to see themselves in the curriculum, and they need to hear their stories and cultures. I know I went through school without that until I had gone to college, and it's just really sad if all you hear is that you caused the Civil War, and nothing valuable about your culture. So it's been a real struggle. It continues to be a struggle because on many of our campuses, there's a lot of kind of fiefdoms around, if you get this requirement through, then my department is going to lose students and this kind of stuff. And it's very hard to, as we're engaged in now, get people to understand the value of consulting with people who are experts in ethnic studies and asking them how we should be conducting the implementation of this new law. And so the current struggle is getting people to listen to ethnic studies experts on their campuses about how we're going to implement this, and to be able to really use it to build up ethnic studies. Because I promise you, the two most underfunded programs across the country and every college campus, every university campus, are going to be ethnic studies and women's studies, which is very revealing about our culture.
Yeah. I mean, 50 years. That's
50 years.
nuts.
50 years. You know,
Because it
Carter
started
Wilson
in San
said
Francisco, right?
we have been misled. We have been miseducated. We read this article in my union about how our history education had been white supremacist. And as I read it, I realized when I was a fifth grader in California, I was making my mom go to the store and get me sugar cubes so I could build my mission. And I had no concept how that mission was linked to the genocide of indigenous people, how it was linked to extricating exploited labor from people. I did not know. And here, I was a Black child, but I had no understanding of how this particular history meshed with my particular history. So we were not taught that. We were taught to valorize the settlers, and the discoverers. And we never were taught the other side of the people who were discovered. I think one of the funniest things I read, and it's poignant too, is a quote by Vine Deloria that says, when asked What do you call your own land? A native person replied, ours. What was your word for it? Ours,
Mm,
right? Oh, we were just never taught that side. So, we're just in this project of undoing and redoing so that we can get the whole picture and people can understand how this looks from the standpoint of multiple groups of people.
yeah. So, changing subjects a little bit. So, you're a professor at Cal State San Marcos.
I
Tell
am.
us about what it's like being a professor during the pandemic. How are your students doing? How are you doing?
My
What's going on?
students are having such a hard time. And what we've really tried to stress, and I'll say, the bulk now is with our union, the California Faculty Association. We've tried so hard to really protect both faculty and students during this time of COVID, make sure we have safe learning and working environments. And the other thing is that we teach with compassion. A lot of people are like, turn your camera on. And some of our students are in a household of lots of people, and it's uncomfortable to turn the camera on because they may not have a so-called professional appearance on camera, right? And so it's very difficult. So trying to get people to be very compassionate with students. We've had students who said, when my dorms closed and I went home, my parents had rented out my room, and so now I'm crashing on a friend's couch. Now that means that Zooming from the couch is going to be, people in the room and interruptions and things like that. So it's really challenging. I think for my colleagues, the people who are most challenged are the people who are trying to do a professional job while they're homeschooling their children, and that's just crazy. I mean, I don't have children in the house anymore. And when I did, and I was in person on campus, it was still very challenging. So I think that at this time, we're really understanding how much the reproductive labor is so much women's job, and women are just being so confounded by having to maintain professional appearance with work while also taking care of their children. And we've just always assumed that this unpaid work is going to be carried on by women. And it's so invisibilized, right? But obviously, we have never dealt with it as a society. I can remember when we used to argue that we needed to pay women to be at home doing this work, and people acted like that was just crazy. But there's this assumption that they carry this on their backs, and I think that's terribly difficult. For people who have been sick with COVID, it's also incredibly challenging. And I've had colleagues who have had serious um, repercussions from having COVID and may have chronic conditions carrying forward for the rest of their lives. How do they then do their jobs? We have very limited leave for those people. We're just kind of piecing it together. And then the other thing is that 60% of our workforce in the CSU, the California State University system, are contingent labor. And that means
Mhm.
while we've tried to protect them with contracts for 3 years of work, for 1 year of work, um, we still are unable to completely protect people from loss of labor. And so that's another huge issue. And then I know for the staff, we are seeing in some of the large urban campuses that staff layoffs are happening. And the system has rainy day funds. And we keep telling them it's raining now. Use the funds. Protect labor. But labor is, unfortunately, it's always on the bottom of the barrel. And academe, like so many parts of our society, has been corporatized, capitalized, and so those things don't count in the way that they should. People's lives, their access to health care, all of those things have been really tantamount to our union work in trying to protect people.
Yeah, those are so many great points. It's interesting how at the beginning of the pandemic when people started doing, Zoom happy hours and stuff, how it was more of a novelty. And now that we're like, okay, this pandemic is still going on, we all need to get back to work and do it safely. And so now all of these new rules are coming up, like you were saying about having a camera on or off and whether a student is comfortable with that. And it's quite fascinating, I think, and especially as a sociologist, you must find that aspect of it very just illuminating, something you maybe never even thought about, right?
Yeah, we didn't. I mean, who knew, right? Going
Right,
into it, who knew? We were also immediately traumatized, like, am I going to die? Just very
right.
basic, human, is this going to hit me and am I going to die? Am I going to get sick? Because the disease is weird, the way that it hits people. And, it strikes down young people, it strikes down old people. So everybody was frightened. But then on top of that, everybody, people are very committed to their work. So they were trying to do the best that they could, and they were still trying to do the best that they could. But, we talk about the twin pandemic. And so for Black people in particular in the academy, whether they're students, staff, or faculty, there's been this double trauma of worrying about the illness and then also just being repeatedly traumatized by images of brutalized and killed Black bodies. And this has been very triggering for people. And it's very hard to just do your work, be
Yeah.
professional, perform your best when emotionally you're really distraught. And I think one of my favorite things that went around floating the various circuits was an essay, Your Black Friends Are Not Okay. And I remember reading it, and I always try to be so stalwart myself, but I was like, yeah, damn, I'm really not okay. I'm just faking it. And we are, 24 hours a day. We're just punting and faking it because we are really not okay. We don't know what's going to happen. We don't know when we'll be able to go out and embrace our friends again. We don't know, when we're going to see an end to all this brutality against Black bodies, and that is just incredibly daunting. But I think for those of us that are activists, we're so committed to the work that we just keep chugging along.
Yeah. And that's not new. I mean,
No.
it's been 400 years of distraught, right?
Yeah.
So, um, just the fact that more people are more in tune with that now, I think can only help. I hope.
I do
That's
too. I do
Yeah.
too.
Okay, my last question for you is just besides what you just said, are you writing anything new, poetic wise or otherwise? Are you trying
I
to
have
funnel your
been.
energy into it?
Yeah, I have been writing all kinds of things. I write a lot of different things for the union that are just kind of like resolutions and statements. So, we had a statement on George Floyd, we had a statement of demands to respond to anti Black racism. So, I did a statement for my campus about systemic racism and anti Black racism. So, that kind of prose writing, but I also find tremendous respite in writing poetry. And sometimes I think, oh my God, it's just so intense. And I'm not like writing about trees and flowers and the smell of rain, you know?
Yeah,
I'm writing about how we all are George Floyd. We all are Breonna Taylor. We are all feeling this, intensely in our bodies, in our souls, in our minds. And so, yeah, I write about those things and it does provide some respite. And I hope that when people hear it or read it, that it helps them touch that aspect inside themselves and provide them some release as well. Because these are incredibly difficult times. I think the hardest thing is to hold on to hope. And I always try to have a little, at least a piece of hope inside everything that I render, because I think we cannot lose sight of hope. We cannot lose sight of our agency as human beings, that we do make society, we make culture, we create the world, and we can do something different. And I think it's so important to inspire people along those lines. And I do have tremendous faith and hope in the young people who have taken to the streets in the middle of a pandemic to protest injustice. And that just makes me so hopeful and so happy.
Yeah, I agree. You're also getting some love in the comments here. Ramos Felicia says, thanks for
Oh,
your
my friend
leadership and activism,
Michelle.
Dr. Elise. Please take care of yourself.
That's
So
my good friend Michelle. We do research together on anti Black racism in Puerto Rico.
great. Well, thank you so much. I'm going to move on to Mindy.
Hello.
Hello, Mindy. Mindy and I used to work together.
We
Um,
did.
so, first of all, congratulations on to Voices of Our Choir, Voices of Our City Choir, with America's Got Talent.
Thank
Tell us
you.
about how you got involved with it, and how AGT came about, and what's on the horizon with the choir.
Yeah, so I am a
And
business.
explain what the choir is, so for folks who
Yeah.
don't know.
Okay. So Voices of Our City Choir is a choir that it was just assembled in downtown San Diego and made up of people that are unsheltered, that really didn't have, I mean, honestly, some of the coolest studies that have been done from a sociology standpoint on cities that have eradicated or almost eradicated homelessness are the cities where the people, the citizens, get to know the people that are homeless. They know their names, they know where they stay. And that is some of the beauty of this choir, is that this choir was created for people experiencing homelessness. They come in pre-COVID every Friday. There's a choir practice in downtown San Diego. There is a full band that has donated their service. They're some of the most talented musicians in San Diego, and everyone gets songbooks, and it's just this incredible place for people to come in to set their belongings down and to feel loved and respected and known, to be able to say their name to someone. And we sing everything from Bob Marley to, I mean, it's just this incredible experience. To be there in person is just so beautiful. And then afterwards, there's the meal that's served. And basically, the choir has evolved from being this thing that started like in a shack in downtown to 250 choir members. We now have case management, all kinds of things. So basically, we're connected with all the sources in San Diego that these people need. And so we're able to get them a case manager and individually get them the things that they need. You know, if you're homeless in San Diego or anywhere really, maybe you don't have an ID anymore and you have to go to this side of town to get an ID, and you have to have the paperwork, and that means you have to have a printer. There's just all of these things. So our case manager helps each person kind of compile the things that they need. And they started performing. They are performing live. They've been doing it all over San Diego. So San Diego Symphony and all kinds of things like that. And I got involved initially as a coach. I came in and led a couple workshops with the choir, with some of the choir members. And then I was asked to come on about a little over a year ago. It feels like 10 years ago, to be the president of the board. And I have a background in nonprofits. I worked in Kenya for a long time and built a nonprofit over in Kenya. And so basically, we got the offer to go and be on America's Got Talent. Initially, we said, no way. We're just like this small little nonprofit. Like, we could barely, like, we're just trying to keep the doors open. What are you talking about going to Los Angeles? And so we initially turned it down. And honestly, that was like the biggest thing, like the biggest blessing, because they wanted us more. And they came to us and really, I mean, I can't say enough about this television show. Like, they bent over backwards to make this an incredible experience for our choir members. We went to Los Angeles in March and were there live on television with Simon Cowell and everyone, and got the golden buzzer and got the golden confetti, and it was just such an incredible experience. And then we took a bus back down to San Diego that night, and the next morning, or maybe 2 mornings later, we got the call, like, everything's shutting down, COVID is taking over, you can't gather again. So we just had to kind of restructure how we did everything. I'll tell you that obviously that didn't air until like July or June. And then they had to kind of figure out some way that the show could go on. And I don't want to take any credit for this part because I didn't do any part of it, but other than be a support. But I mean, they would go into the studio here in San Diego. Everyone had to be COVID tested. And they had a dress, like someone dressed them. They sang their part. They learned their part. Their music was then mixed and mastered and put together, including the visual, and a hologram was created of the choir to be on television. First time in television history for something like that to happen. So just incredible. And we got all the way to semifinals, which is all of it was just so beautiful. Like, every piece of it was wonderful. We didn't need to win. I mean, I think every time we were on television, it was a win for us. So
Yeah, I watched the performances, and when it got to the hologram things, I was like, what is happening? I wish they had, given us a little background on
I
how
do
that had been
too.
done, because I think it was so amazing. Like, when let's shout out to Steph Johnson, who originally
Absolutely.
started the choir. She wrote a Facebook post kind of explaining it, and I was like, oh my God, that's amazing.
Oh
So
yeah.
I wish that had been a little bit more promoted about how it was done,
Oh my
because it
gosh.
was it
It was
was really incredible to see.
tons of work, tons of people behind the scenes doing all these things. And yeah, I should definitely put Steph front and center. She created this with her friend Nina Deering. And this is, like I said, grown from being something that started in a little shack in San Diego to something just so big and wonderful. And, it's not only is it getting these people together and get them COVID tested. It's keeping them safe while they're COVID tested, and finding them and making sure that they have everything that they need. And it's a lot of arranging. So there's the staff. We had a PR team that was helping. It took a lot of people to get that done. I really wish that they had shown what it took to get that on television, because it was an enormous amount of work and energy, but it was such a gift to our organization. Just so that people could see and hear the stories. And, the main point of the organization is to give a voice to the voiceless. And so, I mean, I know each one of those people that were on the stage where the, gold confetti is falling down on them. And I've watched the video so many times, and I watch it for a different person, to see their reaction, because I just love them all so much. And I want to see them individually, but it has done just enormous things for our organization. And there are so many people that have played a part in helping this choir become what it's become. And I just feel really, really grateful that I've had the opportunity to help them. And so, I've stepped in to help Steph about a year ago to kind of restructure the organization, to reorganize it, to build the teams and things like that. And that has been such a cool thing to see, all of this kind of outcome from all the hard work that she's put into this, and all
Right,
the
'cause
work that it's taken.
it's a nonprofit now, right? And
Yes,
yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
501(c)(3).
Hmm. Yeah.
Awesome. And there's a office space.
Yeah, we have an office space that was donated to us. Obviously, no one's really in there because
Yeah.
of COVID, but we have like one person they'll trade off and things like that to go into the office. But yeah, we have an office space, and it's just a miracle. It's just so magical. Every week there's something new that comes through that we're like, okay, that this is just a new realm and a new world that's come from, being on television and things like that. But honestly, all of that aside, if you removed all of that, what this organization, what the employees are doing to change, to be advocates for people that are experiencing homelessness, to change policy, to change legislature, it's just so powerful to see. We have a whole advocacy team, and they go to these city meetings, and they understand what people are saying. They're really understanding it, and they're able to stand up and use their voice and tell the other side of the story. And it's just so wonderful to see. There's so many incredible stories that have come from choir members that have, gone from being on the street to just this wonderful empowered life that they're living right now. So it's just wonderful. Somebody said, have you noticed any new support or recognition from the community after AGT? We've gotten lots of donations. We've gotten lots of the mayor. We've gotten all kinds of people that are now suddenly like, oh, we'll stand behind this. So that's interesting.
Yeah, national TV will do that.
Yeah. So I think it definitely gives us some leverage in the community. Not that we didn't have it before, but it definitely gives us some leverage to go in and have conversations that we couldn't have maybe had before. That I think that the thing that America's Got Talent did was they did a good job at telling the story of what we do and how empowering it is for the people. And so I'm hoping that it is changing people's minds, and that people walk past someone that's experiencing homelessness, and that they can have some compassion and understand that there's a million stories, there's a million little things that have happened to get someone to that place, and that the story that most people carry around is that you're lazy, or you're a drug addict, or you're alcoholic, or whatever the version is that people hear. And there's just so much more to the story. And it's just, I'm hoping that people are starting to really understand that there's more to the story, and that this is a person. And I know for myself, it's definitely changed the way that I see things. I thought that I kind of was a softie, and this has made me a little bit softer than that. I definitely see people that are experiencing homelessness, and I immediately think that's someone's child. Someone gave birth to that person. Someone carried that child, and that's a human being. And if they are a drug addict, or they have, they're abusing drugs or alcohol or whatever, that doesn't mean that their life is not as valuable as someone else's. And so I'm hoping that from the work that we're doing, that people can start to have some compassion, really just understand that we're living in a very extremely crazy time right now, where we're walking past 20, 30, 40 people sleeping on a street corner, and that's normal. And that's that's not the way it should be, and we've got to do something about it. So yeah.
And you are doing something about it. We appreciate it.
And I just wanted to say, can I say one thing?
Yeah.
Just when you were interviewing Sharon, I just wanted to say the work that you're doing is so important. As a girl that I grew up in a small town in Texas called White Settlement. Gross. And I went to Africa my first time, and came back on a plane full of white people handing out Bibles and stuff. And I was like, hold on, what is going on here? How did it get like this? I need to understand it. And I enrolled myself in City College, and I took 3 semesters of Black Studies, and I immersed myself. I was like, most of the time it was late at night, and I was the only white person there. And I was like, I'm going to have to be uncomfortable in this. People are going to wonder why the heck I'm here, and I'm going to have to feel what this is like and understand it. And I just, I was never taught Black history. Obviously, I was never taught African American history. And had I known these things, it wasn't that I wasn't compassionate, but it changed my world. I remember driving home totally pissed off and being like, how did I not see this? How did I not know this? And of course, this needs to be the main curriculum that we all know and understand. And it's so, so important. I just wanted to share like how valuable and wonderful that work is. And it changed my life drastically.
Great. Thank you so much, Mindy.
Welcome.
I'm going to move on to Miki. All right. So Miki had some big news this week, too. A song that she performed on called Bad Wolves debuted with Jason Mraz, Veronica May, and Rebecca Jade. So, Miki, why don't you tell us about Bad Wolves and how that evolved?
Bad Wolves evolved from Veronica May. She's a musician here in San Diego and a friend. And after the murder of George Floyd, she just, she reached out and she said, I got to do something. And so she created this song, Bad Wolves. She produced it. She came up with the concept and she asked me if I wanted to be a part of it. And I said yes. And we talked a lot, and I learned a lot about her through this process. But it was really surprising because I didn't know a whole lot about her. We were cool, but I didn't know a whole lot about her. So she shared a lot of really personal things that let me get to know her and where she was coming from a lot more. And I appreciated her so much, being so honest and vulnerable, and how she had she said like a veil had been lifted. And in her saying that, I just felt like, yes, let's do this. I'm all in. Whatever, let's do it. And so she invited Jason Mraz and Rebecca Jade as well, which was super exciting because Jason Mraz is an amazing artist, and Rebecca Jade, I love her, and I had been wanting to work with her. We'd been talking about working for probably about 15 years for working together. So it was finally going to happen. And on such a great project. So we all got together, and I wrote my verse, and everyone contributed to the lyrics. Yeah. And it was great. We got to hang out at what was it called? Maranch? Jason's
the Maranch.
Maranch, the avocado farm. And he has a beautiful studio there. So we were there, and we had to be physically distant. So it was interesting, but we recorded there. And then we shot the video with Eb, of course, Ebony, who's also worked very closely with Voices of Our City Choir. And Eb came up with the whole concept. It's called Bad Wolves, so she came up with the concept of Little Red Riding Hood, and the black girl is Little Red Riding Hood, and the police and basically white supremacy is the wolves, and I'm the grandma. And so there was a choreographer was brought in, and we made a beautiful project.
Right on. And I see someone has dropped the link in the chat to the
Nice.
video. So that's great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, someone.
That is awesome. I really like the song, and I know Jeff Berkeley engineered it, right? And
Yeah.
Ranch. And who were the musicians on it? Do you know?
Jeff Berkeley. Veronica produced most of it, and Jeff was on it, and Josh Herfmeister. Hermsmeiser, yeah. Josh. I'm going to call him Josh. Josh. Yeah. He contributed as well. Yeah,
I wish you great success with that. I think it'll be, with having Jason's name on it will certainly help, I'm sure, to get more eyes on it and more ears to it.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. Can you talk to us about your involvement with the Old Globe and La Jolla Playhouse?
The Old Globe is such a wonderful place. They've been great. I started my very first involvement with the Old Globe was through a playwriting workshop. It was a free community playwriting workshop that I joined in 2013. I had never heard of the Old Globe before, and I went to theater. I enjoyed theater mostly. If I heard about a tour of a Black play, I would go and check it out. But I didn't know a lot about theater. So a couple friends were in this playwriting workshop, and they said I should do it. So I did it, and I loved it. And so I wrote my first play. My first 10-minute play was in that workshop. And that was it for a minute. And then I This is a very long story. I'll try to make it as short as possible because my involvement with the Globe has come from different directions. It's been different things that kind of all came together. But so that was the beginning, my very first involvement with the Globe. And then a few years later, I was selected to be a hip hop cultural ambassador for the United States. So this program called Next Level sends hip hop artists to different countries to facilitate hip hop workshops. And so I was sent to Egypt to facilitate an art of emceeing workshop. And so at the orientation for that trip, I got there and I realized, oh, I have to be a real life educator. I had done after school programs and things like that, teaching hip hop, or more like doing hip hop with the students. But when I went to the orientation, I said, oh, these are real educators. These are professors and stuff. I'm going to have to learn how to teach, like really teach. And so I got a little intimidated and I came back and I reached out to the woman, Katie, who had led the workshop, the playwriting workshop, because she was someone who I loved her teaching style. And we did all these really cool activities that I never forgot. And so I reached out to her and I asked her if I could shadow her and just learn. And she said, well, actually, we have another workshop, an advanced workshop starting tomorrow. Would you like to be part of it? And I was like, cool, kill two birds with one stone. I can be in the workshop again and I can shadow her. So I did that. And that, short story long, that led to the play I wrote there. It was read in the Powers New Voices Festival. And it's a yearly festival they have for new playwrights. And it was read there. And that led to a commission. I was commissioned to write a full-length play for the Old Globe from that. So that was that. And then a whole other story with the Globe that was totally not connected to the playwriting side. I was DJing in Balboa Park one day, and a program manager from the Globe saw me and asked me if I could come DJ Shakespeare's birthday party at the Globe. And I said, cool, I'll do it. I don't know anything about Shakespeare, but I'll come and DJ his party. So I did that. And then they just kept calling me back. They called me back for their Globe for All tour to be the DJ and sound designer for their tour. So then I did that. And I just kept getting more and more involved with different things. And then it all came together. And then I became a teaching artist. So now I'm a teaching artist. Oh, in La Jolla Playhouse, I was commissioned by Blind Spot Collective, which is a theater collective here in San Diego. And it was Blind Spot and La Jolla Playhouse for the WOW Festival. They have a yearly WOW Festival. And so this year it was digital because, pandemic, because of the Rona. So I had a play. I was thinking about this, Mindy, actually, when you were talking about the different situations that get people on the streets, living on the streets. And I wrote a play. It was supposed to be about, it's called Walks of Life. The whole series is called Walks of Life. And it's playwrights talking about their neighborhood, the sounds that you hear in your neighborhood, and what it's supposed to be a look into the homes that might be in your neighborhood. So in my neighborhood, there's a lot of homelessness. And so I wrote about a family who lives, I shouldn't give it away, but I wrote about homelessness basically. And humanizing it, that these are people who got here. The man is an educator. The woman is, I forget what she does, but these are people who have lives and careers and things went wrong. Somebody had a bad back and they couldn't work anymore. And so that's what I wrote about for my radio play for the La Jolla Playhouse.
Wow, so fascinating. So many roads. I guess you were meant to be at the Old Globe, huh?
Yeah, I like it.
So on your website, there's something about a Black art and healing space you're developing for queer women in San Diego. Can you talk about that? So
Soul Kiss Theater is a Black arts and healing space. And what that is, it's so I used to do for for 9 years, I produced events under the name Soul Kiss. I started back in 2007, and it was a party, basically events for queer Black women, and well, queer women of color, but Black women. It was mostly Black women came. It was a hip hop night because I was very queer and very here in San Diego, and I would go to Hillcrest, and it was very white, and I was like, okay, this is not really, not really my vibe here. And then I was really into hip hop music, so I would go to the hip hop places, and they were very straight. So I said, you know what, I'm gonna bring the two together. So I started a night that was a hip hop night for women, and it did really well. It was something that I didn't even realize that it was needed, and so it took off. And so for almost 9 years, we threw a whole lot of events, and then in 2015, I retired. My business partner and I retired. We were just tired of nightlife. It was a lot of work. It was basically a full time job, and so that ended. And ever since then, I've run into people, women in the community, who say, "When are you bringing Soul Kiss back?" And I just think, I'm not. I'm done partying. But then over time, I was thinking it is necessary to have a place for women, and just with everything going on right now, people are hurting. And I know for me, when I was in my lowest, darkest space a few years ago, the only thing that kept me afloat was art, was creating music, and having this. This was my lifeline. Art was literally my lifeline. And so I felt like, okay, with this, I can help provide that for other people who are going through it right now, like giving them something to hold on to. And so what I did was I reached out to the Globe, and the program, the director of arts engagement and the Globe, and we talked about using the workshops that I spoke about, the playwriting workshop, combining those for Soul Kiss Theater. Like, it's a Soul Kiss Theater, and it's combining the two. So I'm doing playwriting workshops for queer Black women, and the original idea was to have people in a physical space, because I have this really big physical space that's beautiful for workshops or for meetings or for open mics, but we can't get together in person, so we're doing it all over Zoom. But hopefully in the future, in the very near future, we'll be able to gather in an actual space, face to face, and that's Soul Kiss Theater. That's what Soul Kiss Theater is.
Wow. There's a lot of stuff going on. I really appreciate all the work you do.
Thank you.
Everything you do for San Diego.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, of course.
Also, what Mindy was saying about Sharon and the work you do, seriously, that is everything. And Mindy, don't feel bad that you didn't get any Black history education, because none of us did. None of us did. I got to college. I went to UC Santa Barbara, and my first year, Dr. Otis Davis, he taught Black studies, and I remember just sitting there thinking, why did I have to come all the way here? And not everyone can come here. I'm very fortunate that I get to be here, and this is where I get this education. And that's all I wanted. I didn't want any of the other classes. All I wanted was to learn about me and learn about my history. I did not get that growing up. And any Black history that I did get, I had to search out. Luckily, I love libraries, and I would go and search for everything Black I could find, which was not a lot. So don't feel bad, because none of us got that. And thank you, Sharon, for the work you do. And thank you, Mindy, for the work you do. And thank you, Lizzie, for the work you do.
Yay, love. Everybody. All right. Well, thank you so much, all of you. I want to ask one last question before we sign off, and that is, what brings you joy?
I'll tell you, this is really bringing me joy right here, right now, is to see how people are powering forward, to see particularly women actualizing their creativity, their compassion, pushing against oppression to be able to create in the midst of bullshit, you know. This brings me joy. Any pushback gives me joy. Any activism gives me joy. And always, always, I'm married to a musician. I'll tell you, the arts bring me deep, deep joy. Whether it's dance, whether it's music, whether it's poetry, whether it's plays. I mean, that is where our imaginations can run wild and we can imagine the world that we don't live in.
Yeah.
Right on. Miki, Mindy?
For me, this is going to sound so cheesy, but everything brings me joy. I'm just so happy to any day that I wake up, and first of all, I wake up and I'm I'm not in pain. You know, all my parts work well, and everyone's still here. You know, there's been a lot of loss this year, and the loss it hurts a lot. At the same time, it makes me just want to take advantage and just enjoy every moment because you never know how many moments you have left. So I'm just a walking ball of joy anytime I get to breathe.
Awesome. How about you, Mindy?
I get pure, like, my heart could burst joy when I experience people doing the thing they were put on this earth to do. It just makes me so incredible. You can feel it. And I just sometimes wonder what this world would be like if we all were honest with ourselves and we were doing the work that we were called to do, even the big scary stuff. And I really get it. It just like fills me up when I see people taking the thing that they came to this earth with and shaping it into something and using it for good or using it to do something for their community. And yeah, I just get all the feels from that.
Awesome. Yeah, and we didn't get a chance really to talk about your business coaching, Mindy, and I'm really sorry about that. But please, people go visit her, mindystallings.com, to learn about her coaching business. I took a class from her, and it helped me a lot. So I appreciate that. And so we're going to wrap up. Excuse me. The next show will be November 19th. That is also my birthday. So
Yay!
tune in for that. My guests will be Catherine Beeks, Jules Stewart, and Keisha Lynn Moore Elliott. So that should be a really fun time. So let's see. We have a comment. Miki, is there a way to watch or read your plays if we're not in San Diego?
I have a couple plays up on my website, MikiVale.com. MikiValeThemc.com. And yeah, and then there's a link to the play that's the audio play, radio play that's on La Jolla Playhouse, on the La Jolla Playhouse website.
Cool. Perfect. And thank you so much to all of our commenters. They've been very active this session. So that's very cool. I really appreciate it. All right. So thank you everybody for watching. And Mindy, Sharon, and Miki, thank you again so much for all the work you do and for being so candid in your conversations with me. I really appreciate it. And I'm going to sign off. So
Thank you, Lizzie. Thank you.
Thank you.